those positions focus on taking crime off the streets, highways, and hedges focuses on taking crime out of men and women's hearts. That way people are converted and they don't revert back to the same lifestyle. I'm a product of that. And I know that it works. I know that it's very effective. We are here as a representation, myself and those of us that are part of Highways and Hedges, asking for the support of this board and of this city and our endeavors to see crime eradicated and taken completely out of man's heart and off the streets. And we thank you. We hope for your support.
Thank you, sir.
Roderick Robinson.
I just want to, a few years ago, y'all had passed something on that GPS stuff where y'all put that on all y'all work trucks, equipment, and stuff like that from being stolen. And I know that ran up a bunch of money on that. And y'all said y'all were going to see how it worked out. And I never heard no more about it. How much did it cost since the day y'all put it in? I'd like to find that out. And what was the benefits out there? Did y'all find anything where the workers was not doing, where the vehicles wasn't supposed to be or anything like that? Because I was totally against all that. I think if anything, you put it on police cars where they know where they all at, to direct the closest one to where you got to be. But work trucks, you got people working for you. They're supposed to be doing their job and all that. So I don't think that was necessary. I think that was money that was just thrown away. And if as far as being a dozer stole a while back or something like that, y'all said that's why y'all put it, y'all might not lost a dozer. Then people that steal stuff do that for a living. GPS or not, they're going to take it off. They know how to do that. That's their life. That's what they do. So I don't think that's a payment there. I'd like to see what the income is on that, how much money it costs to put this in, what was the benefits on that, and if it's actually worth it. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Mr. Terrio?
Yes, Ms. Williams, if you don't mind, could you also, that's the second person probably in a week that I've heard this request for information from. I'd like to know, because that was done, I know, before a number of other council members here. We need to see if it still warrants the amount of money we're paying for this on an annual basis. We need updates on the if, ands, or buts as to how it's being used. And I know we had some reports that broke it down in specific sections of certain areas, vehicles going out of town, vehicles staying idle, vehicles going over a certain speed, and certain parameters like that. So if you can get us the whole council an update, we'd appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Waylon Gibbs, Jr.
Good evening. My name is Waylon Gibbs, Jr. I've been a resident of Lafayette Parish for 37 years. I currently reside in District 4. I am retired from the Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections as Assistant Secretary. I'm here this evening to move the mindset position on the General Alfred Mouton Monument, that it should be relocated. As I stand here tonight, this is my first time appearing before the council on any issue. I'm reminded of what one of the greatest drum majors for justice once said. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor political, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right. Those words were spoken by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. He, along with others we know, courageously stood up to the vicious and dangerous specter of overt racism in the form of segregation and voter suppression in the South. The Civil Rights era was a time when blacks were reminded of who was in charge in the South, and just in case they forgot, this specter hung itself in the whites only and colors only signs to ensure compliance. We also know that the story ended, but the question is, did the story really end? 100 black men of Greater Lafayette, in which I'm currently president, holds the position that although Lafayette's storied past during those turbulent times did not make major headlines, we feel that the reminder of its ugly past still haunts this city. We feel that the book has not been closed. 100 black men of Greater Lafayette take the position that the Confederate Jim Crow statue at the old City Hall building is one of the last vestiges of the ugly past. There are those who will say that it is just a statue that is part of history to remember our past and not to forget it. We say that it is a statue to honor the past and to remind all those citizens and visitors alike who is still in charge of Lafayette. We say to the supporters that if this statue is truly for the reason that they say it is for, then there should be no reason why it should not be relocated to its rightful place. That rightful place is at the home of its namesake or to a museum. The Confederacy is still held in high regard by some who refuse to accept the fact that America's greatness lies in its diversity, not in its hatred. Dylan Roof's action at the peaceful Charlottesville March, which resulted in the death of one person, Ms. Heather Heyer, and injuries to many as he drove a car into a crowd of people. This is just a microcosm of that hatred spurred by their love for the Confederacy. We feel there is nothing wrong with anyone wanting to honor their family's Confederate history in whatever shape, form, or fashion. We do, however, feel that it should not be done on taxpayer property. We feel it is a disgrace, a travesty, and a slap in the face to the American ancestors, both black and whites alike, who fought and died battling the specter of racism. If Lafayette is truly the happiest city in America with the best food, the best music, the best people, then the city's leaders should join with all of us who believe, as Dr. King, that the time is always right to do what is right. We ask that the city parish government leadership courageously move Lafayette into the 21st century by supporting relocating the divisive General Alfred Mouton Monument from its current location to a more fitting location that is not on taxpayer property. Those who wish to honor his contribution could still do so at its new location. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And I would like to have my comments entered into the record.
Yep. You can give it to Ms. Williams. Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Sally Donlin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sally Donlin. I'm a citizen of Lafayette and Lafayette Parish. I live in District 3. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And I'm here to talk about the Jim Crow statue that stands downtown, a monument to one of our nation's most shameful memories. The introduction of Jim Crow laws and policies against many of our friends, neighbors, and colleagues. At one end of our reimagined downtown area is a lovely metal arch, illuminated with bright lights and the word downtown. That arch stands as a beacon, welcoming folks of all stripe into the urban neighborhood. At the other end stands a little grassy plaza at an interesting intersection in front of one of Lafayette's most interesting and historic buildings, our old City Hall. That structure can hardly be appreciated in its own right though, because of the controversy surrounding the statue that stands before it, dominating that otherwise lovely plaza. That statue is what I'm here to talk about tonight. I grew up downtown. My house, along with a few other houses in a beautiful old Baptist church, once stood where Parc Sans-Souci now welcomes visitors and residents alike. But those buildings are now gone. That old church next door once rang with beautiful voices raised in prayer and song, but now it is gone. My brothers and I spent particularly hot Saturday afternoons at the Jefferson Theater, lulled by the cheesy dialogue of those old movies and the cool dimness of that darkened space. But now it is gone. If we weren't at the Jefferson, we were generally playing pickup ball with a diversity of kids from downtown LaPlace and Nickerson over in the old Southern Pacific lot, which is also now gone. For those of you who either don't remember or who didn't grow up downtown, that big old empty field was where the Rosa Parks Transportation Center now stands. My point is that cities change. They have to in order to grow, to remain current with their evolving history instead of languishing in a distant past. The world today is not the world of yesterday. The Lafayette that used to be and that I remember is not the Lafayette it is today. The way we think today is not the way we used to think. The people of Lafayette moved our city hall to this very building, which was once the old Sears building where my parents bought some of our back-to-school clothes every year in 1980. I was 24 years old, and I remember it well. Walking near the pointy plaza where the Jim Crow statue stands, I was stopped by a reporter from the Daily Advertiser who asked me whether the monument ought to be moved to the front of the new City Hall, in which I stand talking with you today. That was then, and I was ignorant of the ramifications of my own past, and I said somewhat too glibly, no, because we don't want to have an empty point. In 1980, I knew full well our nation's terrible history of slavery, the Civil War, and Reconstruction, and our shameful position on the wrong side of it. But what I failed to understand then was that that hunk of concrete that had stood there my entire life really stood for. I failed to understand that it stood for the oppression and intimidation of many of those very kids I played pickup ball with every Saturday. I failed to understand what it meant for those lovely neighbors from next door whose lovely hymns graced our dinner table every Sunday. Times change. And today I do understand, and I am appalled, embarrassed, angry, and frustrated that the monument to hatred and white supremacy still stands in my hometown. In an era when we know that folks, at least good folks, do not believe what that statue stands for, it should not stand in pride of place, indicating to visitors who do not know us that we are mired in a shameful past. I do not want the statue destroyed. We should never forget our history. The story of the Mouton family should be preserved in all of its complexity, in the full manner that they deserve. I ask that the statue be removed from its current location and relocated to an appropriate historical venue. Thank you.
Sally?
Frederick Prejean.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to be with you again. I guess this is about our fourth or fifth consecutive month that we've had the privilege of addressing you. Each time I've been here, I've had the honor of advising you of the size of our organization and how people have received the teaching lesson that we've been providing. At last count, we had 16 civic and social organizations that were members of our group. Tonight, I'd like to add two more bodies to that number, and they are the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus and the Executive Caucus, the National Black Caucus. Congressman Eric Richmond is the chairman. I received the letter that was passed out to you from the chairman of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus. I have a similar one from the National Caucus. Don't have time to read both of them, but I wanted you to have this one. Dear Mr. Prejean, the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus supports in its long-standing efforts to oppose the preservation of Confederate monuments in the city of Lafayette. We strongly commend you on your commitment to eradicating ideals and symbols that pay tribute to an era that embraced racial discrimination and bigotry. America has made great strides toward progressing into a nation that ensures the principles of liberty and equality on which our great country was founded. The taking down of the monument of Confederate leaders who fought for a cause with the paramount objective of destroying those noble principles is a justifiable action. If we patriotically salute the American flag and embrace the endearing ideals that it represents, we cannot justify paying public tribute to those who fought against and who sought to dismantle all that American flag stands for. Despite revisionist attempts to revise the history of the Civil War, Americans cannot honestly examine the course of events that led to the war and divorce Confederacy from the brutal regime of slavery. The Confederacy evolved for the purpose of sustaining and perpetuating slavery, and those who served as leaders of the Confederacy, whether political or military leaders, were irrevocably bound to that cause. As we continue to evolve into a society that embraces and preserves liberty, justice, and equality, rights for all citizens, regardless of race or ethnic origin, we must not only continue to eliminate policies and institutionalized practices that promote racial discrimination, we must also cease to embrace and promote symbols as well as monuments that honor and pay tribute to those who fought to preserve an oppressive and brutal system that violated and contradicted every aspect of this country's founding ideals and professed creed. It is not just the impact of racist intent and ideals that we have to eradicate. We must also refrain from government-sanctioned efforts directed toward paying attention or paying tribute to and embracing those ideals and symbols that represent racially discriminatory perspectives and viewpoints. Pursuant to the preservation of historical events, we believe that the monuments should be placed in a museum or Civil War battlefield site where they can be properly depicted. Signed, Ronald J. Gaines, Chair, Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus, Louisiana State Representative, District 57. As you can see, our movement is growing. It is not only Lafayette citywide, it is not only Lafayette parish-wide, it has now reached Baton Rouge, which means it is going out throughout the state of Louisiana. I mentioned the other executive Black Caucus in D.C. Having their attention means that our efforts are being learned of on a national level. And we have not yet begun to promote our effort nationally. That is coming very soon. And we want to promote Lafayette in a positive way, but Lafayette must cooperate with us to help us do that. please help us, work with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Ray Green.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ray Green, spokesman for Project Armchair and speaking for thousands of other individuals that have often been overlooked, neglected, and ignored, the disabled people, some seniors, some disabled veterans, some expectant mothers, and some short-term disabled. I'm going to be and speak as civilly and as respectfully as I can tonight. I do have a couple of points to bring out, and I have two very strong stands that one could display. It's truth and the facts. I welcome you to prove me wrong if you can. This past week, I've caught bits of all 8 of you with your town hall meetings. Someone had to set these meetings up. I imagine you either called or emailed these locations to set the convenient situations up. Did a single one of you, a single one, exercise a little compassion, respect, common sense, caring or concern or interest in simply asking a very simple question? Could we possibly have 2 or 3 chairs with arms for some of the disabled who might also like to participate in these meetings? Prove me wrong. How about it, Mr. Castillo, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Boudreau, Mr. Conk, Mr. Nakan, Mr. Ballard, Ms. Cook, and Mr. Theriault? Did a single one of you give a thought to the disabled in this area, either in the city or in the parish? A single one. Your silence proves my point. By the way, the disabled in this area are also voters and taxpayers, for your information. This is a prime example of how this council shows its lack of respect and interest, a large segment of our city and parish, the disabled people. Your silence has proven me right, and you can prove me wrong if you can, but I don't think you can. For the umpteenth time, I'm again asking for just one caring council member to put Project Armchair back on the agenda to answer and to ask questions to settle this matter. All it takes is just one caring council member that cares about the disabled in this area. Just one. Truth and facts. When this council comes to a close, you're going to leave a legacy. What's it going to be? One, the council that shows respect and compassion, caring, concern, and interest in being the first city in the state and the entire nation to exercise some passion for helping the thousands of disabled people in several groups. Or 2, the council that has turned its back on some of our seniors, disabled, veterans, expectant mothers, and others. By being the council with the, shall we say, the legend of the compassion of a dead battery. Personally, I'd be embarrassed to know that I was part of such a legacy that will follow you for years to come. Prove me wrong. Give me a chance, give us a chance for equal rights for the disabled in places of public accommodation, which we do not have at this time, as proven by all of you attending those meetings, and not a single armchair was at any of them, but yet you remain silent. Any questions or comments? Proves my point again. Thank you very much. I will be back.
Councilman Boudreaux.
My mother's mother died at the age of 87. She was diabetic. She had 3 amputations by the time she died, which ended up with leg nubs and did not have the ability to put on any prosthesis. So my brother Gerald, who I don't know if he's still here, myself, everywhere she went, to the doctor, to church, to visit her children, we lift her out of her bed, put her in her wheelchair, transported to our personal vehicles, drove her wherever she needed to go, unloaded her without assistance or without mechanical devices, spent the time with her during that time for about a 15-year span until her death, from her first amputation to her death. My daddy's father died at the age of 92, and we provided similar care as he did not have the strength to do what he needed to do. And his wife died at the age of 96, and the same care was provided. I am not gonna let nobody come to this mic and tell me that I don't care about the disabled, the veterans, or the elderly. The Clifton Chenier facility where I conducted my town hall meeting has arms on every chair in the auditorium. Hush him up.
No comments, please.
Every weekend, week out, meeting in, meeting out, Mr. Green comes here and he criticizes and he name calls and he goes to Congress, and Congress was gonna come with legislation. He went to Baton Rouge, and his friends in Baton Rouge was gonna come with legislation that has never come. I have evaluated this situation. Not only does he reference the elderly and the disabled, there's also obesity, and I'm very familiar with that. There's not a restaurant in town that I've been to that hasn't accommodated people with chairs with arms. There isn't a public facility that I've been to that has not accommodated people with the need to have arms on chairs. I have yet to find a single venue, when asked for, who have denied someone a chair with arms. In addition to that, they provide chairs for small children and infants to sit and enjoy themselves. But for him to come here, and I'm not gonna speak for, I'm gonna speak for myself, and tell me I don't care about that population, it's inaccurate, it's wrong, it's irresponsible, and I'm not one who sits quiet and take it. I have had family members in the same militaries you served in. I've had friends. I've served the disabled. I've served the handicapped. I've served the obese. Your words are very inappropriate. They're ugly, and they're unnecessary. You have a council member, you have a senator, you have a representative, you have a congressman. You should be sitting with those people, and when you could convince your rep to make a move, that rep will then go and speak with his or her colleagues in that respective body to move forward with legislation. The message should be, if you can't convince them, you might be speaking to the wrong audience. But I'm gonna ask you very respectfully and man to man, do not come to that mic in my presence and tell me who I care about and who I don't care about and who I take care of and who I don't take care of when you don't know what I've done in my lifetime. That's my words to you. And do not allow him to speak out of line in this auditorium. You're going to learn to comply.
Sir, no, sir. You had the 5 minutes, okay? Let's keep it very professional. Next speaker, Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry. Oh. You got it? Hit it again? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want everybody to understand this. I'm pretty familiar with Mr. Green, what his comments are. And if you look around the chair where you're sitting at, you have 2 arms on your chairs. That's where my town hall meeting was held last Thursday. And I heard him ask for 2 or 3. I think there's about, how many people can sit here? About 100 people? So I had over what he's asking for. And again, if you look on the side of you, there's 2 arms on each chair. So he asked why no one called. I mean, I'm giving him more than he asked for. That's where my town hall meeting was held last Wednesday, right here where you're sitting at. You're sitting right here, right now, Mr. Green. You did many times you come here. Thank you.
Thank you. No other?
Next speaker, Shamir Burnett.
Good afternoon, Senator, councilmen and women. I'm a representative of an organization, Highways and Hedges. I'm the second speaker. And I just wanted to come and, address, again, what he has already addressed, Benjamin Rhodes. We are an organization, as he said, that's going out to reconcile all men back unto God. But our sole purpose is to do it one event at a time. We're some people that are consistent. We're not just, one event to change lives at that one period of time, but we are an organization that's consistent, and we go out to different cities, as he has said. We've connected with other councilmen and women in different cities and states. We've connected with people in Monroe, as well as did a march out in Monroe, one of the most dangerous cities in America. As well, we've been in Houston. We've done events on Texas Southern University's campus, and we've also connected with Councilwoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And in the event that we connected with her, it has branched us out to the chief of police there, as well as crimes we've responded to in the city of Dallas. We have events out there that we've had that's brought people together instead of bringing more violence into them. And our goal and our mission is to eradicate this problem completely, to get these things out of the way. Myself, for example, through one man, our chief apostle, Wendell Archie, through him changing his lifestyle, it changed my heart, it changed my mind. And now I've become a different person through a true life change, not just, a lifestyle that's seen on the outside, but a mind change. I was one that was bound up in a lesbianism situation, in and out of jail, was selling drugs, doing the drugs. But now I'm changed, and like he said, through me going back to these environment where these people, they feel they have to sell the drugs to survive. They feel they have to take the drugs to try to suppress depression, to try to suppress the suicidal thoughts. Through them seeing my life change, or true life change, not just talking about it, but actually seeing an example of a true lifestyle lived before them, they can change their lives as well. Our plan is to go in and endow the community with peace and with hope, and we ask that, if y'all know of any events or if y'all know of any community assistance that we would be able to receive for our organization, we would greatly appreciate it. We are an organization that doesn't go out and look for profits as we go out and do these events. We go out, we do these events free of charge. We actually did an event here in the Truman the Truman area. We went out, we marched from Alex Boucher to the Martin Luther King Center, where people came out and their lives were truly changed. They have truly been reconciled back into God, and it wasn't just a temporary change. It's a change that's continuous. Like the change in my life, it's been 6 years and counting. I haven't went back to none of those things, but our sole purpose is to bring people out of the condition that they're in. People that take drugs don't really want to take drugs. People that sell drugs don't really want to sell drugs. People really are looking for a life change. People are really looking for hope. People really want to change their lives. And through our organization, there's others that's come from several different walks of life. Their lives have been changed permanently. And this is not something that, you know, a temporary change has come through their lives, but like I said, it's a permanent change. And anybody that's come to this organization might have dropped out of school. They have went back to school to get their GED, have went back to school to get master's and bachelor's degrees. We have people that have dropped out of school, now are lawyers. We have people that have done several different things, they're business administrators. But through us having a changed life, through us coming out to the community, Dallas, Monroe, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, we're just trying to branch out even more in the Lafayette area to show people that they can change their life through Highways and Hedges organization. And that's all. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Andrew Abear, who signed in both as a city resident and a parish resident.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First thing I'd like to do is thank all the city residents and parish residents that showed up at all the town hall meetings that y'all held. I think it was fantastic. I attended every one because I wanted to find out what people think.
You missed mine last night or Monday.
I know it was at the same time, and I didn't realize that somebody said that it was.
I was just picking with you.
I know.
So make sure, I missed you. I was waiting for you.
I appreciate that. Can I have those minutes back?
Yeah, you got it back.
All right.
I got you.
We talk about autonomy. So I brought my little Black's Law Dictionary. Thought I'd read it. Autonomy. The political independence of a nation. The right and condition of power of self-government. The negation of a state of political influence from without and from foreign powers. I want everyone to understand what autonomy is. I attended Mr. Lewis's presentation, and Patrick, thank you. You inspired me to think about this. Think about our government and what we're doing. And one of the things is the confusion of your agenda. It would be very simply to put resolutions, City of Lafayette, and list all the City of Lafayette resolutions. Then put resolution, Parish of Lafayette, and you'll have all the parish resolutions. And therefore, those of us who are city residents will see what you're voting on, and we'll see what the parish is voting on. And then maybe that'll get you in a mindset that I am a city voting, and I'm a parish voter. Do the same thing for the reports and discussions and on ordinances for final adoption. I think that would be great. There's a gentleman's agreement, I understand, amongst y'all that 5 of y'all will act as a city council and 4 will act as a parish council. So I'm proposing something absolutely different. It's called a city council and a parish council. 5 elected inner city council members by only city district voters. 4 elected out-of-town parish council members by only parish district voters. The 5 inner city voters, council members, handle only city business. The 4 outer city districts join with the 5 inner city districts to handle all parish business. That's how you're doing it now. That's what I understood, gentleman's agreement. Let's make it legal. I think that's a great proposal. I think that's something to think about, an alternative proposal. Now, if the city loses population, which everybody's speculating on right now, outside the city will add a council district, and the city will lose a council district. So now you have 5-4. The new council will consist of 5 parish outside city council districts and 4 inside city council. To provide for a 5th city council district, 1 at-large council member will be elected by only the city of Lafayette population. Now you have 5 city council members. The difference is the at-large district rep will not vote on any parish agenda. And he may act as a mayor pro tem for the city of Lafayette to negotiate with Mr. Roberdeau. So now Mr. Robideau actually has a person to negotiate with instead of the mirror. I think that's a possibility. That is what is called true taxation with equal representation on the city side and on the parish side. And that's something I think the population would vote on. I think that's a great alternative to make this community, Lafayette Parish, one. And the numbers do work, Bruce, because I checked them. It is a possibility, because you already have 5 districts with 25,000, and there's 4 left that work at 22,000, I think it is. But I'm sure those who do demographics can make that happen. So I ask you to do that. Think about that. Maybe you ought to put that as an alternative, because I think you can have more than one alternative to vote for changing the charter. Thank you again for holding your town hall meetings. I appreciate it, and I'm sure the citizens do appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Cole?
Andy, just a point of clarification. The 5 city councilmen, as you know, only one has 100% city constituency, and Ms. Cook has 60% city constituency. It's very difficult to make those numbers work.
I don't know, you have a map that you showed us that shows it works with 5 districts in the city that you proposed, didn't you?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Isn't that, can I talk on that? I mean,
I'm not
on
interested
an
in a debate,
agenda.
Andy. I'm just making a comment that the so-called city councilmen today don't necessarily represent the city, using Ms. Cook as an example.
Okay, well,
And nothing personal, Ms. Cook.
No, I'm using this as an alternative to the plan of changing our home rule charter that I think works a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Final speaker, Wallace Senegal.
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor President Joe Robideau, and audience. I too have watched all you guys meeting. Some of y'all meeting and play it twice, and I watched it extensively, you know. And one of the meetings I was watching was Ms. Cook's meeting. And in the process of me watching that meeting, someone in the audience asked that they get all the facts and the stats on paper and present it to them before it was voted on. I think you remember that, Ms. Cook, because you did answer that. And Mr. Kant, what you said is going to come with some amendment. And I have a problem with amendment, because when you amend something, you either take something out or put something in. And if we're going to get all the facts and the stats with amendment, it's not a good thing for us as citizens, me as a district, Mr. Lewis is my councilman, you know. So I'm not going to go for it as long as it have amendments. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Councilman Cole?
There's never a perfect document, and you know that, Wally. And I will tell you that one of the most critical amendments that we're going to address is one that I think is of concern to you, is that we will not allow anyone who is term limited to run for the new councils. It will put into play the existing term limits across the board. I would think you would support that amendment, correct? There will be other amendments, and we will present those amendments in toto. Is it tomorrow, Jay? We're going to do a red line copy. We will present the amendments that will be proposed for the August 7th meeting for public review tomorrow. It'll be released tomorrow. You will have adequate time to review it and make your comments at August 7th. Thank you.
Is that all the speakers? Okay, all right. Now that we're done with comments from the public, we're going to move on to resolutions. This is a public hearing. Blue cards available for anyone wishing to address the council. The 5-minute rule does apply. And Chairman, can you please read?
Resolution 47, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council giving preliminary approval to the issuance of taxable second lien utilities bonds of the City of Lafayette, State of Louisiana, in a total amount not exceeding $250,000, applying to the State Bond Commission for consent and authority to issue such bonds and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Got a motion by Councilman Conk. Need a second? Second by Councilman Boudreaux. Council discussion. Councilman Conk.
Yes, sir. At the LPUA meeting, I offered an amendment which was approved, and it's addressing Section 3 regarding principal forgiveness. There's a reference there, the parish's obligation to repay, and this is actually a City of Lafayette transaction, and Mr. Escott has the appropriate language for consideration.
Mr. Escott, your mic is on, sir.
Sure. Similar to what Councilman Conk just said, that within the resolution at the bottom in Section 3 on the third line, where it reads that the parish's obligation, and parishes apostrophe S, the word parishes is going to be deleted, where the sentence simply says, or the phrase says, that the obligation to repay.
That's my amendment, sir.
Okay, need a second? Second by Councilman Boudreaux. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment first.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? Yes. District 9?
Yes.
Motion to amend is approved.
Okay, is there any discussion or blue cards on the ordinance as amended by the public?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please call the ordinance as amended. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Terrio.
Mr. Osborne, if you don't mind. If you don't mind, just one quick question. Why are we selling taxable bonds?
You're doing it because there's no need for tax-exempt bonds. These bonds don't have to be repaid. They do not have an interest rate. The interest rate is 0, and the principal does not have to be repaid. It's really a grant, but it comes to you in the form of a loan that you don't have to pay back. It's everybody's favorite loan.
Where can I get one of those?
I think it'd be easy to get rid of a whole bunch of them.
Parish needs a bunch.
Yeah, we don't see
It's
these.
a wonderful opportunity, and it's a small issue, but you can't beat the terms of it.
It's just this particular kind of bond we don't see too often because you have it quoted here in the section as a taxable second lien.
Yeah, we're making it, it has a very weak security, but it doesn't make any difference because you're not going to pay back the loan back anyway.
Okay, Mr. Osborne, thank you much. That's all I have. Thank you, guys.
That's, I want to go, can you search that? Is that available like for the parish? Or where can we get some more of these?
Utilities Department has worked very hard.
Oh, it's the utilities,
They
I
have
got you.
these particular sewer programs. It's not for electricity, and there's some parallel programs for water, but when you have special programs that produce particular results, then you're awarded these loans that you don't have to pay back.
Okay.
And so you've reached those, you've satisfied those requirements, and so they've offered it to you, and by your actions, you're accepting that tonight.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, sir. So if you're saying this particularly for water, something like that, the utility department?
This is for sewer.
Sewer, I'm sorry. Are there any others like that that we might be facing in the future?
Well,
That, you know?
very possibly. It changes from year to year, and the DEQ pushes for, well, not even, it comes from the federal government, just funneled through DEQ, and they want to achieve certain results. And so they encourage them, and this is one of the ways that you can encourage it, is to give, in effect, a grant to the local government.
Right. So you're saying there is a possibility?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Terrio.
Yeah, so real quick, looking at this resolution's number 6, which talks about the second lien utilities bond, the $250,000. But the next resolution's number 7, talking about the sewer. So are we using this money to apply for number 7? Is that something we're looking at?
Yes.
Because it's got $250,000 in it, which
Right.
is basically what this is.
Yeah, but 7 is only, it's a DEQ requirement. You have to
Look, let's get to 7 when we get to 7. Let's finish with 6.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they are
appoint
related.
certain city officials who can make the grants applications for you. And it's just,
No, that's good. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, not seeing any other discussion, please call the ordinance as amended.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 9?
Yes.
Motion to adopt as amended is approved. Resolution 48, 2018, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council designating city officials authorized to act in various capacities regarding applications to the Department of Environmental Quality for loans for sewer improvements.
Okay, before we move forward, we do have an amendment that is going to be brought forward by legal. At this time, I will ask Mr. Escott for explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In Section 4 of Resolution, under item number 7, it currently reads, Director of Utilities Terry Uval, comma. We're going to offer, an amendment needs to be offered that changes that phrase to read, adds the word "the" in front of the word "director," and removes the name Terry Uval as well as the comma, so that the sentence would then read in Section 4, the Director of Utilities is hereby designated.
Got you. Well, before we go there, I need to take a motion, a second to introduce. Got a motion by Councilman Conk, second by Councilman Bellard. Now, Councilman Bellard, do you want to offer that amendment? Sure. Councilman Bellard will offer that amendment, and second by Mr. Conk. Any public comment on the ordinance before the amendment? Sir. Okay. Let's please call the vote on the amendment.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
Motion to amend is approved.
Okay. Now please call the vote on the ordinance as amended.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5? Yes. District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
Motion to adopt as amended is approved.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We're going to now move to reports and or discussion items. At this time, Chairman, can you please read number item 8?
Grass cutting, EQ, contracting process, and repeat violators.
All right. At this time, I'll give the floor to Councilman Boudreaux. Your mic is hot, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of slides that I would like to present as the EQ staff comes forward. But before we do that, I want to first be very, very clear that what I'm going to cover here tonight is no negative views of the efforts of environmental quality, our inspectors, that is. I actually want to publicly commend them for their efforts, as they have many challenges. But in my 11 years, I now conclude that our policies as they are written, our ordinances that they are available, and the way we are addressing these issues is antiquated. It's just not going to get the job done, and we need to look at other means of addressing these issues. But again, I commend their effort. They're very responsive. They get to issues. They deal with constituents in some controversial situations at times, but I think that we need changes. So if we could go to the first picture, I'm gonna just identify a few locations. These are in fact all in my district, and these are current situations. So this right here, I think that is at the intersection of Plum Street And let me see, that'll be 12th, 11th, so that would be 10th. So this will be the immediate corner of Plum and 10th Street as we see it today. As you know, north of that fire hydrant, there's a sidewalk because we have sidewalks that you cannot see. This is an overgrown lot in the city limits of Lafayette, in a neighborhood that has been securing significant amount of grants recently. They have just successfully, along with LCG's efforts and administrative efforts, have been designated as a cultural district, and this is one location that exists today. Next slide, please. This here is actually, this is going to be the intersection, I think, of Apple and 11th. This has almost become completely wooded. If you look to the far right of this picture, that little white building, that's an old store. Those of you who might remember Melanson store, old Chubby Melanson, that's his store in the back. So this picture was taken with a northern view, and this is, again, a corner intersection of a vacant lot, and this is 11th and Apple Street, and I actually grew up around the corner from here. I've never seen it in the history of my life this bad. And as you could see, now trees have erected to a very large height. And this is, again, in the city limit. As you could see, our sidewalk situation yet again. Next slide, please. Okay, this is an alley. Our previous Public Works Director, unfortunately, was not able to get to all issues that was on his plate prior to his retirement, but I had numerous conversations with, and I want to just put that on the table for Mr. Dubrock, legal, as well as the administration, had numerous conversations with Tom Carroll as it relates to our alleys, which exist mainly in more of our historical communities, and our maintenance of those alleys. We have talked about either we got to do a better job of maintaining them, or we need to abandon those to the property owners for possibly some yard expansion where they will maintain them themselves. But this is an alley off of Plum Street. This is a vacant lot, so it borders an alley. This is yet another vacant lot. In the direction that I'm actually going, we would be headed toward 12th Street. So this is in between 12th and 11th on Plum, adjacent to an alley. Next one, please. This is 12th Street. This is 12th Street, right across the street from a very prominent store, Bruce's You Need a Butcher. That wrought iron fence is actually the adjacent property of Dr. Kenneth Brown, which had a medical office there. Now it's the home of a healthcare unit. And this is a lot on 12th Street across from an abandoned cleaners, which would be this way, but that's on 12th Street. And do we have another one? This is one of my favorite. This is across from Immaculate Heart of Mary. This has been the condition of this lot off and on since I have been into office. This block here is anchored on one corner by a Masonic Hall, which is at the intersection of St. Charles and 12th, and on the other corner, 12th and Pinhook. This grass is 8 feet tall, period. The sidewalk is completely unusable. You could see the house. You could see the top of the roof. This has been a reoccurring situation for 11 years, okay? And this is across the street from a multi-million-dollar complex in Immaculate Heart of Mary, a historical African-American Catholic church. There's some business activity in the community, Masonic Hall with the 12th Street rezoning that we did and some of the revitalization that has happened on 12th with planters and street murals. This is on 12th Street. That might be the final one, but let's see. This is, I don't know where this is at. This, I was just captured. Oh, okay, this is 12th Street again across from Bruce's. That's just another angle. We covered that one already. Is there any more? Okay, thank you. So again, and thank you, Mr. Dubrock, for being here. And again, I want to be clear. This is not your effort, but we have to look at our policies and how we're doing things. If I reference something wrong, please correct me. I'm going off of a lot of the historical way we've dealt with these things. To address these lots, we typically wait for a complaint, I think EQ has now, they started to the best of their ability with a minimal amount of inspectors, try to go out and identify things, but for the most part, these are complaint generated. Once the complaint is made, before action could be taken, it has to be verified. At that point, within their reasonable schedule, they have to go out and verify that the condition is what the complainant said it is. Once they verify it, then they will send a certified letter. A lot of times they have it on file because a lot of these properties are very historical in nature. But for those that are new, that requires the research at the courthouse to send a certified letter to the landowner saying that you're in violation of our ordinance and you have to correct this situation and you have 10 days to correct it. After the 10 days lapse, if in fact it hadn't been corrected, they have to go verify that the correction did not take place. They have to go back out to the site to see if the work was actually done within their schedule with minimal amount, few numbers of inspectors available in the hours in the day. And then once that's verified, it's contracted out. Okay, it's sent to, I think, one of 3 contractors that we have, but it's not a single job. They are given a list of jobs, as I understood it, and those jobs could be anywhere from grass cutting to lot cleaning to small demolitions, okay? And they have a list of as many as 40 to 60 properties at any given time with a timeline to clear that list, okay? I don't think that works anymore, especially the grass cutting component, okay? And I'm only looking at the administration for the purposes of trying to just kind of digest this, and hopefully we could be in support of what I'm gonna recommend or some other solution. That, with the demand in grass cutting today, in the frequency of the growth and with the heat conditions we've had, with the rain conditions we've had, and you saw, that's just a couple of properties within a 2 or 3 block area. There are much more in mine. I'm sure there's a number of them there in some of your districts as well. So we can't get to them fast enough. They don't have the personnel to do it. They don't have the man hours to get to them at the level of expectancy that we have in our public. Remember, these are complaint generated. This isn't just looking to mess with somebody, right? So they don't have the man hours. They don't have the resources. The complaints continue over and over. And even when it hits the contract, I don't know exactly what's the timeline, but it's not unusual that from the time a complaint comes in to the time the problem is corrected, that is not a 45-day process, okay? And that's reoccurring. So some of the things I've asked for in the past, we haven't gotten them all back. We have had a lot of change, personnel and administrative type changes, legal type changes. And Mr. Escott, I'm gonna direct this one to you. One of the things I have asked for that I've never heard back on is to research the legal mandate to have to send a letter every single time. And what I mean by that is that I'm not even talking about within a year. I'm under the impression, and you know, I'm pretty like, let's help everybody. But what I ask for is some of these properties we have been taking care of in excess of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I'm thinking that there might be an opportunity for a record to reflect that if we've been dealing with the same people for that amount of time, that letter requirement might be able to be removed. I'm not asking for a response, now I'm asking for the legal research, because if legally we can't, well, then we're wasting our time. Okay. But I'm talking about, like I said, that big 8-foot situation, that's been here for 11 years, and it was here before me, okay? So, to me, to waste that time with that notification, knowing that we're going to cut it anyway, I really need that research to see what are our abilities to streamline that, where EQ don't have to go through all of those processes. If they could identify properties and say, this has been on our list for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and we set a new standard even if we have to do it by law, okay?
So, Councilman Budo, just to make
Yes,
sure
sir.
I understand your question, are you talking about in addition to the ability that we have now, that if we have already given one formal notice within a 12-month period, we don't have to continue to give them notice?
I didn't even know that existed.
Okay, it's in the ordinance now.
Okay, so,
All we have to do, and again, I'm trying to recall from memory, but I think if you have already given that formal notice within a preceding 12-month period, that if they are a repeat offender a second time within that 12-month period, all you simply do is an affidavit, file it in the administrative office declaring that they are a repeat offender, and then you can put them on a 30-day cycle and cut and charge them every time you cut.
okay.
And that's under the current ordinance.
Right, so that's great. So what I will say to that is, yes, is in excess of that for multiple years. But that exists. I was always told, not necessarily by this representation, that a letter had to go out every time.
And I'll certainly go and I'll make sure that what I'm telling you.
So that's good news, and that puts us in the next category on how we address these issues. Now, my suggestion, I have been approached by a number of lawn services who want to cut grass, okay? And I know we have a limited pool of money to work with, so nothing I'm suggesting is to increase the cost to EQ or for us to even pay out more than we already pay. What I'm asking is to spread the service out and utilize more people so we could get to it faster. We're gonna pay that cost to cut it eventually. The problem is when can someone get to it, okay? I'm asking that we strongly consider with those three services of grass cutting, land clearing, and demolition, that we take the grass cutting component, open that up to more bidders or more interested parties who will be willing to go in for grass cutting only. For me, that has been the most frequently requested thing. We do have some demolition issues. We do have some dumping that takes place that we have to get some land clearing, but the biggest demand has been grass cutting. I think we could do this. We set the rate. I realize that some people might frown on the fact of would we say that we are able to pay them to cut a lot or what. So I will support not going beyond what we already pay. And that might eliminate some people because they're going to say that's not enough. But there are some up-and-coming lawn services, there are some small lawn services just trying to get kick-started who will jump on this, who will be able to get to these grass-cutting issues much faster before they get to this point. So that's the suggestion that I'm making, is that in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were hesitant to do that because it would take away some work opportunity for our contractors who are doing the land cleaning and the demolition. And I totally get that. And I'll be willing to face them myself. But I'm sorry. The community's quality just super exceeds that. And our community being clean super exceeds our contractors. Look, if they can't relate to that, we're gonna have to just work beyond that. But if that's the only thing, and if there's something else, I want to hear it. But if the only thing that's keeping us from considering this is the fact that there are contractors who say that's going to peel too many jobs off of our list, or we're going to have to find some new contract. But it has outgrown us, and it's gotten too far ahead of us. So I'm asking that we open up to more lawn services to be able to do that without expanding the amount of money that we pay out, because I know our EQ fund is not sufficient in a lot of ways, but we could do more with what we have, okay? And again, you all have done a fantastic job. You deal with the garbage issues as well. I know your responsibility is great. It's unfortunate that we live in a world where people don't like to hire a whole lot of public employees to get more inspectors out there. I get that. I'm living within that now. I just have to accept that. And I realize that y'all could only get to what you could get to within a given day. I want all of that to be reflected here. It's not an indication on your effort. It's just that they're beating us right now. We have sidewalks that we can't walk on. We have lots that are in excess of 5 feet tall. We have some lots within the city limits of Lafayette that are now getting wooded. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. So that's my presentation in a plan that I would like to see. If there's some feedback that could be given, or if I reference something other than the notification issue that was not accurate, please correct it so everybody could be on the same page.
I'll reply to that, and I appreciate your comments. And because my work existence is kind of driving from Public Works to City Hall and back again, I haven't seen a lot of that myself in my own experience. And I wish you would send me those pictures with the locations, and we'll see what we can do with that. I have never seen those pictures, and that's
Right. Oh yeah, I took them today.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm appalled by it myself, and we will see what we can do about that. We did in response to some of your questions earlier in the week and last week. We had a meeting called by CAO Lowell Douillon to discuss these issues and others, and it was brought to our attention that we do have some powers in the ordinance that would allow us to be more aggressive about cutting these types of properties on a more frequent basis. So we're going to see what the ramifications of that are and how to implement those changes and see what we can do better. The problem I see with the ordinance is there's no end game. I mean, we can't continue cutting people's property over and over and over again. And obviously, these repetitive offenders, they're either non-existent in reality, or they're unreachable, or they're just totally devoid of any sense of responsibility. And so where does it go as far as us as a community? We obviously can't mow all of the grass all of the time. And so the limited resources, even with contractors, we still have to pay those contractors to do the work. In this type of a case, you're never going to collect money from them. And so then it does become an expense as opposed to just a reimbursable charge. So I'm not sure, well, I think we have to have more conversations on how to get to an end game in those circumstances.
Why don't we ask legal to look into that? I know whenever a property, and there's been a few instances, but whenever a property certainly sells, those types of things are able to be addressed as far as liens are concerned. But I don't have a problem. Again, I want to be very creative, if we would. Whatever means that, if we're maintaining, I know under our adjudicated process, adjacent property owners who have maintained under affidavit and sworn statement that they have the ability to obtain those properties in ways that no one else can. So if this government has been maintaining with absenteeism for X amount of time, I've never put in that request before, and I don't know if it's ever been done, but I would like to see how we could start to acquire some of these properties based on the maintenance that have been provided over the long term that you reference, because there should be no reason for this to remain in place.
I agree.
Right.
I
agree.
agree.
We need to just address it. If there's an issue, let's address it.
Yes.
Yeah.
In regard to the contractor issue, we actually had 3, and we're down to 2, as one withdrew his name from the pot. The issue we have with the contractors is that over 60% of these situations require heavy debris cleanup, or like you said, demolition, small demolition. So for a large portion of them, there's special qualifications that those contractors have to have. And so we've been diligent about doing that. I think perhaps we need to be a little more aggressive about seeking out other contractors that can meet that specification. So we are developing a list of very specific requirements. Now, you also have requirements for insurance and bonding and things like that. And that's harder for the small guys, the guys just starting out in a business, and they've got a nice lawnmower and some labor to do some stuff, but they're not capable of some of these tasks.
So let's
and
talk
so what
about,
we want to do
right.
is identify ones that can be done by the smaller guys and try to dispatch those contractors for those jobs, and keeping the more heavily qualified contractor for the heavy jobs.
Right.
And so we can do a better job of that.
Right, and that's a good identification, but I want to go a step further. I want to peel grass cutting only off the list altogether, okay? The people, and I know what you're talking about, because everyone who's approached me, I say, are you bonded? Do you have insurance? Are you a registered business? I get that. I understand that. Those are going to be eliminated. There are tons of them out there. There are tons of lawn services out there. They are available. But just to be clear, what I'm requesting here today, grass cutting alone, to be cut out and set aside away from property clearance and demolition. If we keep that all in one lump category, you take most lawn services out because there are people who just do lawns. Even the big commercials, the original Boudreaux's lawn service with the big old white trailer, all he did was cut grass, okay? So we can't, there's the people who are gonna have to have bobcats and backhoes and possibly excavators or dozers, many or large, that's gonna be over here. I'm talking about lawn mowing, residential only. I don't care if you even take out bush hogging for large tracts and unincorporated and other things. I'm talking about a residential component for grass cutting within neighborhoods. We're gonna have to be very specific, and that needs to be a category. Those are the things that affects neighbors. Those are the things that affect neighborhoods. So that's what I'm asking for here today.
Well, we will look into that and do the best we can to
Yeah.
satisfy that request.
Yeah.
It's a complicated problem.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. I want to chime in with you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if there was some more, but yeah, absolutely.
And Mr. Pat's lit up, and Mr. Joel and William, you know, in the unincorporated area, in the last couple of weeks, I've sent an email in. We have a lot of complaints in the unincorporated area. Some accidents are happening at intersections. Some of it's parish roads that intersect with state roads. Some of them, if it's agriculture land, then the ditches are overgrown, and there's, like, I think today, you might have mentioned that it's allowed because it's considered agriculture. I mean, I'm fighting the same issues in the unincorporated areas, that we're getting complaints that the grass is tall on the highways at the intersections. And I also wanted to figure out a way, how can we speed that process up, or what can we do? Because if it is a state road, do we have to get DOTD to go out there and cut the grass?